Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Richmond City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, agenda additions and deletions.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have one agenda addition. This is in the final adoption section. Bylaw 10048 is being added for final adoption.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda with that change?
So moved.
Discussion, all those in favor, any opposed, that's carried. So now it falls to me to make a presentation to Harold Steve, so I'll come around.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Harold Steves to join me at the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to announce what was a unanimous vote by this city council to present the honor of having the Freedom of the City awarded to Harold Steves. I keep wanting to say Councillor Harold Steves. I think we know generally of Harold's accomplishments over the years. So I simply want to read the proclamation that I have signed. Whereas council may by resolution confer the honor of freedom of the city on any person who has distinguished himself or herself through exemplary service to the community. And whereas Harold Steves has throughout his career undertaken his civic duties with distinction as British Columbia's longest serving politician, a total of 50 years on Richmond City Council, as member of the Legislative Assembly for British Columbia for one term, and as one of the founders of the Agricultural Land Reserve. And whereas Harold Steves has played a pivotal role in the preservation of farmland and heritage as well as environmental issues, and during his tenure, the city has transformed from a small community based on agriculture and fishing to a thriving urban center. And finally, whereas Harold Steves has during these years provided steadfast leadership, guidance as his vision has helped shape the city of Richmond to be a vibrant, livable, and sustainable community. Now, therefore, I, Malcolm Doty, as mayor of the city of Richmond, and with the unanimous support of City Council, do hereby confer upon Harold Steves today, on October 10th, 2023, the honor of freedom of the city.
That's perfect right there. Couple more. I guess we keep clapping either way.
And as I pull this microphone in, I'll ask Harold, I'll hold that. Would you like to say a word or two?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation of the award. Since I've retired, I've been looking around Richmond, and after 51 years on Richmond Council, I like what I see. And I've been watching the council meetings, and I like what's happening at council. I'm happy that it's a good time to retire because I think we've got a great council. And so I've been enjoying watching the council meetings from afar and not participating. I promised when I left I was going to give gifts of my files to different people. I didn't realize how difficult it was or how long it takes to figure out the files. And the only one I've got anything for was I've scanned 1,400 photographs for Bill McNulty. But I've copied one for everybody on the council. And these are just historical photos of Steveston and the fishing industry along the coast of BC. So I want to make that presentation to you. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, my friend. All the very best. Thank you. Thank you.
And with those words, I'm going to ask council to come here and join me, along with Harold Steves. Thank you very much, Harold. To join in for a group photograph. Oops, this is yours, not mine.
Street Santa photograph.
That's not the worst thing in the world. Sorry, folks. That's all right, stand on the chair.
Just hang on a second, we'll turn these off.
Is that detail? Okay, looking good, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's beautiful. One more, couple more, smileys. Okay, we're good to go. Thank you.
And while Harold is here, could you turn on this mic, please? So while Harold is here, all of council is here. I'm also presenting to Harold a card offering congratulations, and it's signed by every member of council. So that's just one more token of our gratitude. Thank you very much, Harold. Thank you for everything you've done over the years.
Oh, fantastic. Wow, great photos.
That's perfect. As everybody can hear, say yay. Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
That's when I had hair.
Pretty scrappy looking fellow there.
It's coming, Harold, you'll be on the ship again. 2025.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're on the way. Actually, they're.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a call sometime. So thanks again, Harold, and thanks for being here. And Lauren Sly, thanks for helping with this, the logistics tonight. So may I have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole to hear delegations on items that are on the agenda? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Is there anybody in the audience? All I see is staff, frankly. Is there anybody in the audience who is wanting to delegate on items on the agenda? All right.
Rise and report.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Brings us to the consent agenda, and there's been 12, 13, and 14, which are the planning matters, have been taken off the consent at the request of Councillor Wolf. So we have the receipt of committee minutes, the Blue Cabin Floating Artist Residency Term Extension at Imperial Landing, Community Wayfinding Strategy Guiding Principles, the City Center DEU Bylaw 9895, the Permissive Property Tax Exemption 2024 Bylaw number 10476. We have the amendments to the Consolidated 5-Year Financial Plan 2023-27. And finally, the Housing Agreement Bylaw 10484 to permit the City of Richmond to secure affordable housing units on city-owned land at 4831 Steveston Highway. May I have a motion to adopt those items by general consent. Moved and seconded. Any, okay, Counselor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I wanted to ask staff a question about item number 7. That's extending the residency of the Blue Cabin floating cabin that's in Steveston. I understand that it's been quite popular. Do you have any report on how many people have attended the cabin since it came to Richmond?
Through the mayor to Councillor Day, through your worship, I'm sorry, to Councillor Day. Since the Blue Cabin has been at Imperial Landing, there have been about 30 to 40 workshops, free to the community, that have been offered with the different types of attendance. I don't have a specific number, but the type of workshops are usually between 10, 20, really depends on the workshop, 10, 20 people.
So it's been very popular. Good, thank you very much. And then I just wanted to talk about the community wayfinding strategy. It's item number 8 on the agenda. Do you remember during the Olympics, we had those great wayfinding signs all over the place that told people how far it was to various interesting things to see in Richmond. So tourism has kicked in $25,000 and the hotels have kicked in $25,000 to create the guiding principles so we can take that program into the stratosphere and make it even easier for people to see all the fun things that we have to do here in Richmond. And then number 10 is the permissive property tax exemption. This normally applies to churches. I did want to ask staff for an update because we did have a presentation from the ANAF in Steveston on number 1 Road who were asking for an exemption. I understand that staff met with them and offered some assistance. I'm not sure. To talk about that. Thanks.
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Day. We did go out and meet with ANAF, and we brought forward to them city grant options and staff that they could speak to see their eligibility and requirements needed for them, as well as we offered them or gave them the ability to look at the provincial and federal grants and funding that would be available to their type of organization that they could look into. We also spoke to them about the assessment that they are Class 6 property and what would be required by the BC Assessment Act for them to be reclassed to a Class 8, which is recreational and nonprofit. And they would have to have a minimum of 150 days where they are not selling paid events where the members would come in at no cost, and it could be for their meetings or for fundraising events where they're not selling alcohol or have an open bar, those type of things. So that's something for them to review, and that's where we left it with them. We did reach out to staff as well to see if there were any rental options at the moment, and currently there isn't anything available right now.
And the reason we can't give them the tax exemption is because it's a business that actually makes money. Is that correct? And it's part of the charter.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Councillor McNulty.
Thank you. Can I just follow up on that?
Well, just a minute. We're talking about permissive exemptions. There was a full memo that you got today outlining the whole situation. So if you want to talk about permissive exemptions, that's fine. If you want to talk about more than that, it's not.
Okay, just a quick question and following up on the previous discussion with the particular organization you were talking about. First of all, thank you very much, an outstanding report that you gave to it. The ball is in their court right now, isn't it? Basically, right? Correct?
Through your worship to
Okay,
Councillor.
that's all I need to know, but keep up the good work. Thank you for the report. Yeah, the permission exemptions, your worship, people seem to follow all the processes and the principles that we've asked to grant the permissive exemptions. So I think those fall in line, and obviously anybody looking for more exemption would at least have something to follow on. I did want to mention the Blue Cabin floating artistry, because it has been a success. It's a pity that we may only have it for another year. It has been success. It's focused on the arts for us. It's provided some incredible artists, and It's very unique, and I think the group to bring it over here, I guess it started, Your Worship, in North Vancouver, and now it's come to Richmond. I did want to mention something on the wayfaring strategy. I know it's in principle and what have you, but I think feedback is needed on some of it because we have such a rich history, rich culture, rich heritage, lots of activity in the arts and sports. But we need to sell most of those to members of our own community because many people don't know lots of things exist in our community. Places like the Highway to Heaven, I believe we should have arches over there inviting people in, one at Steveston Highway and one up on Blundell, or so that strip, even Bridgeport. Very important because we are one community. But there is, if anything could go away, a lack of focus in East Richmond. Richmond, when we have things at the foot of Gilly Road, Grey Bar Road, for example, we have Oikawa and Sato Islands, which were huge islands at the turn of the century in a very, very thriving community out there. And I don't think any member of council, other than possibly myself and one other, would know what took place out there. Very vibrant community, very large community, over 300 people living on those islands. Harold Steves would know that, and others, part of the fishing industry. As a matter of fact, there was a cannery there, huge cannery, and sent stuff back and forth to Japan. So I think the principles continue to support, Your Worship. They are guiding principles, but I hope that a task force or whatever would be formed to get into some nitty-gritty with regard to that, other than signage to the obvious, what I call the obvious. There are a lot of hidden gems in Richmond that need to be examined. So I will be supporting everything on the agenda. The document we have from page 74 on is a good step in the right direction, but I hope when staff further look at it, including our entrance signs, I think we're due for a refresher. I think they're about 30 years old or thereabouts, to sell our own community and welcome people to it. So I'm hoping that this will be a step in the right direction and not just fall back on tourism, because this involves all of us. And I think as a result of that, it'll make Richmond a better community in terms of visibility and welcoming. So with that, Your Worship, I'll support everything.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just be in support of everything that remains on the consent agenda. I just want to speak to two of them. One is a question in regards to the committee minutes in our package on page 34, I think, is where it mentions that during the Parks and Rec meeting, we had a delegate speak to us about the Bark Park, and staff's response was that they were going to take the 300-plus name petition and then follow the process of that's already underway. So my question, just to be clear for people who have signed that petition, will they be getting a specific invitation to be part of the next phase of public consultation? And also the petition's not in the package in case people are looking for it, but it was over 300 people of users of that space.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wolf, I have not seen the petition either. So to the degree that we can get good contact information out of those individuals or what is provided in the petition, we will do our best to connect with them. But often a petition is just a name. So we'll look at it and we'll do our absolute best.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I'm just looking again on page 34. It just says it's copy on file, so maybe it's just a digital file that you'll access to get those contact information. All right, and finally, the last one I was going to speak to is community wayfinding strategy. I mentioned that general purposes. Others pointed out that East Richmond and South Richmond were kind of left out of this early phase, this reporting, but the guiding principles that are to be adopted will ideally hope that it will signify ways that people can find their way to city facilities or places. For example, I was just approached on the weekend about Triangle Beach, which is a city-owned waterfront space where people used to go, but it's blocked off. So wayfinding strategies to help not just the core or Steveston, but other significant sites around the city. So looking forward to the build out of that. Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'll be supporting what remains on the consent agenda, and I'll just mention two quick things. As has been mentioned, the Blue Cabin, I was around in the community when we had our meetings about that Blue Cabin, and it's probably been more of a success than we anticipated. It's made a great connection in the arts community. Public reaction has been really positive, but there is competition actually to have it in different locations. So the fact that we're getting it for another 12 months, I think is a really good thing. It's been very effective in helping to animate the waterfront down by Imperial Landing. The second thing I just wanted to mention was the community wayfinding with the 6 guiding principles. I think it's going to address a lot of the concerns that we've heard outlined tonight, and that's important to address those. I think it's a very good example for the public to grasp that the MRTT, the hotel tax, has been used very effectively by Tourism Richmond and the Hotel Association to help make this happen, working with the city. And I think it's also good that it recognizes the uniqueness of certain areas of the city, whether it's heritage, whether it's a business district, or whether it's a more natural area like the nature park or a trail. I think it's good that it does that. And there's also going to be a new aspect to it, which will be very beneficial to people, and that'll be a technological aspect, an app or some sort of technological advantage, which most people are using right now. So overall, I think it's an excellent start, and I just want to emphasize using the MRDT like that, I think is an excellent example of how we can work together with stakeholders. So thank you.
All right. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I too will be supporting everything on tonight's consent agenda. With the wayfinding strategy, I'm hopeful that our bike lanes will start to have some congruence with adjoining or nearby municipalities. I did a couple bike rides this summer. I went through Vancouver, Burnaby, Port Moody, and Vancouver's still winning on the being able to figure out where you're going for where the bike lanes are. So here in Richmond, some of our bike signage isn't the same as what happens, say, in Vancouver. So if you're biking from one jurisdiction to the other, it can be difficult to figure out where you're going and how you're getting to the next spot and where did the bike lane just go, because now the bike lane signage is on the ground instead of up in the air, and so you're not necessarily, it's harder to figure out where you're going in Richmond. So hopefully we can get some congruency with adjoining municipalities so that bikers can have the same ability to find their way around when they're either in Richmond or going into Vancouver, because we know a lot of bikers go from one place to the next. And I think it'll be helpful for everybody and safer for everybody to be able to stay on planned bike routes. I have a question for staff with the property tax exemptions. Now, I understand we give the exemption for religious and worship, recreation, childcare, elder care, specialized housing for developmental disabilities. We've given $1.46 million in exemptions. But most of these are still paying some taxes, is that correct?
Through your worship.
And what's sort of the range of what they're still paying? So they're getting an exemption, but...
We do offer the permissive exemption based on the charter and our council policy, and as long as those are okay, then there is an exemption. But the portion of either the lot or the land or the building that doesn't qualify will have to pay the taxes.
Okay, and it's still about $500,000 we're still collecting for many of these?
More than $500,000. So the churches is just shy of 200, and the other agencies is over 700.
Is more, okay. So these organizations aren't tax-free, they're given support to do some of the work they're doing here in our community, and they're still paying some taxes to pay for what they're using and utilities and other things.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Liu. That is correct. Some properties are 100% exempt, but some are not, depending on their qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you, that's all.
Councillor Allen.
Your worship, I would just want to add my support to the extension of the Blue Cabin floating residence. I think this is a very successful project and very popular. It's not just being measured by how many programs that we have hosted in that at that place, or how many people have visited the floating boat. I think it has generated lots of interest in the community, and I think it's caused many people to pay attention to it and talk about it and ask questions about it. So I think this is a very important feature in our cultural life in the city. So I think, I hope that, we are not just extending it. I hope that we can have it permanently in our city. And the second thing is the wayfinding strategy. I support everything in the report, especially I like the recommendations on CNCL 1991, particularly in two aspects, the digital wayfinding. I think this is the way to go. And I don't know if in the future we can integrate this into our smart city strategy so that people can have a system that they can use in order to get to these places and also make it more convenient and more efficient for them to go to places that they want to go to. And I think it's also a very smart strategy to have the wayfinding program connected with the airport. I think many people come to Richmond starting at the airport, and even they might be coming to Richmond for a transfer or a short period of time. But with this system of wayfinding, perhaps even within the short time they are here in the city or at the airport, they can still enjoy what we can offer in the city. I also want to mention that I hope that can be balanced. On one hand, we want everything to be ready, to be handy, but on the other hand, I don't want people, when they see so many signs at each street corner, I think that would be confusing, that would be too much. So I think we have to keep a balance of, have enough number of signs to guide people to the places that they want to go, but at the same time, not too many, confusions that can be caused. So with that, I support everything on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the question then on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. That brings us to the items taken off the consent. First of all, we have item number 12, and I'll ask Councillor McNulty to introduce that as the Chair of Planning.
Thank you, Worship. Item number 12 is an application by Interface Architecture for rezoning at 57, 71, 91, 54, 93, 31, 51, 71, 91, and 55, 95, 56, 11, 13 Stevenson Highway from a single detached RS1B zone to a detached RS1E zone and 2-unit dwellings, which is RD1, and a medium density townhouse zone RTM2. Recommendation was to be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move.
Moved and seconded. Did you wish to address it?
The only comment I would make, Your Worship, this is another opportunity with medium density to get 30 townhomes with 7 secondary suites, which is very unique in the townhouse industry to have secondary suites. And I think it's a good thing if we can keep going in that direction. And a right in and right out for vehicle access to Stevenson Highway. So the frontages on each of them are more than satisfactory. The density and the FAR is what basically was proposed. They got a small bonus in terms of, because of their layouts. And one of them will be a 2-story unit, the other a 3-story unit. So I think it meets all the statutes, Your Worship, that we have. And I think the report from staff is quite explicit. That's all I have.
All right. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did ask this to come off the consent agenda. I'll just speak to some of the things, reasons for that. I visited the site today in the pouring rain, and as Councillor McNulty mentioned, the right in and right out curb that this is going to have, a curb modification. The neighboring townhouse, I was standing right beside it, and someone went out the wrong way onto Steveston Highway. So my first question to staff, is that the template that this one will follow, that same kind of wedge shape that is intending to direct people to the right, but maybe there could be more?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, in terms of the right-in, right-out driveway, yes, it will include a channelized raised median within the driveway. That driveway letdown would be designed as part of the servicing agreement for this application. It would generally form the same style as the one that exists further to the east.
Okay, yeah, because that one was built just last year. My next question is in regards to the 2 outdoor amenity spaces. Is there still opportunity to move those outdoor amenity spaces? And if you want to see the map that shows it best, it's on page 220. I think it's the best there. So it shows the driveway in, and then an outdoor amenity space would be directly right there. You could see that if they put the outdoor amenity space to the right, or the front, as soon as you come into the right, they could save a grove of trees in each case. Instead, they've chosen to put it in a place that is kind of devoid of trees, and they're removing the trees that are in the outdoor amenity space. So my question is to staff, could there still be room to work with them to move the outdoor amenity space to save more trees?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, yes, it is possible to look at adjustments to the outdoor amenity space location through the development permit process. Having said that, the grove of trees on the east side of the entry driveway, they are recommended for removal based on existing health and condition, which does not warrant long-term preservation.
Okay, then that's all my questions. And my just final comment is, which you'll hear from me more tonight, around the trees. So they are taking out a significant tree, a spruce tree that's 99 centimeters diameter. It's right adjacent to the driveway, so it's an area that I was witnessing this morning. And again, just to go through the numbers, they're taking out 42 trees. They're supposed to put in 85 for the tree protection bylaw replacement, but they're only going to put in 60 and pay 25 in lieu. And I don't think that is what our bylaws intended to do. So I'm going to be opposed to this. Thanks.
Councillor Glanders, please stay here. There's bound to be more questions. Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do also have questions along the same lines as Councillor Wolf. Regarding that stand of trees to the east of the driveway, you said that grove is recommended for removal, but that does include the tag 1000, which is that significant tree. So my question was just what, could amenity space be adjusted to include the area with the significant tree, and or what mechanisms would the developer have available to them if they were to say get a height variance to keep the tree in order to make the project still financially viable?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, in terms of the significant tree tag number 1000, that tree has been previously topped. Any tree that has been previously topped does ultimately result in structural defects in the tree that do result in it being somewhat susceptible to limb failure moving forward. That is the primary reason why that tree is recommended for removal. In terms of relocation of the amenity space, provided that we receive direction from council, we are happy to do that through the development permit process. Locating amenity space at the driveway adjacent to an arterial road is not something we would traditionally do, but it is something that can be done.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. Question to staff. On this stretch of Steveston Highway, there's a center turning lane. Now, is that center turning lane going to be lost with the new Steveston multi-use path, or is that center lane staying?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, I would not want to answer that question right now. I can provide further information prior to the public hearing. It is my understanding that the center turning lane will stay, but I would like to confirm that.
Okay, because in my opinion, the center turning lane is for just that. So as far as I'm concerned, they should be allowed to turn left out of their property and left into it, because there's a turning lane that facilitates that and makes it safe and easy to do that. So And the same thing with the previous property, should have been allowed to turn left in and out. And I think if you were driving home from work, you'd like to be able to turn left in and out of your property too. And I think it's safe to do it there. Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Just on this project, unfortunately, I couldn't make it to planning, but I agree with many of the comments that Councillor McNulty has already outlined, so I don't want to repeat too many. But the other aspects that I did like in the report was the fact that the developer is actively working with the existing tenants. There's going to be solar panels related to this. There's a significant contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund. There's a significant contribution to the Art Reserve as well. So I will be supporting it. The thing I'd just say about traffic going in and out right with right turns, I do support that actually. I think it is safer. Steveston Highway is very busy. It's going to be busier as we go along. And I think the thing that we might look at down the road is whether or not, depending on the configuration of the road, what it ultimately ends up being, whether or not there's an additional kind of delineator system that we can put in to increase safety. And the example I'd use would be what we added in on number 2 road, just south of Blundell by Blundell Center, after we had a very tragic accident there. So there's things we can look at as we go down the road, but I'll be supporting this project tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. And at the committee level, I had asked about the 10 tenants that were going to lose their resident or their tenancy. And I really appreciate the memo that you sent, Mr. Craig, because it does prove that the developer has gone to extreme lengths to help the people who are displaced. But one question I had was on your email, it says that there's a 6 months notice, but on the letter from Mr. Sean Lawson of Steveston's Real Estate Group, it says 4 months and then it says 6 months. So what is that what is it?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, it is our understanding that the minimum required under the Residential Tenancy Act is 4 months. The developer is committed to providing a minimum of 6 months notice to the tenants. They are also prepared to allow any of the existing tenants to move on short notice without any penalty.
Yeah, I was really impressed that, number one, that you can leave when you want to leave, if you found something else. I was also really impressed that some of the tenants were paying half price of the rent and they can leave anytime. It was also offered to a Ukrainian family who are refugees and people who are renovating. And apparently one of the houses, 4 bedrooms, was rented for $1,000 a month. And then they understand the developer allowed for temporary housing for 1, 2, 3 months to people who needed temporary housing. And then the really nice one was free rent was given to a person who was disabled, who had fallen on hard times. So all of that took away my concerns about the 10 tenants. But I don't get the amenity areas. If we look at the drawing on page 220, as you drive straight in, there's an amenity area. I'm assuming that's going to be a playground. And then way over to the left on the corner of LaSalle Road and Steveston Highway is going to be it looks like a 2-story amenity building. You know, I think we should locate it in the same place. It'll be much more significant. And that back row could be another townhouse if you just move the other one over slightly. So I would like to make that recommendation or direction to staff that at the development permit plan that we look at changing that, because if we're going to have this really big development with 30 townhouses, 7 of which have suites, we really should make that amenity area special. And I don't think dividing it and separating it makes any sense. So I'd like that. I'm not sure if that's a direction to staff at DPP to see what we can do about putting those two together and making it something really special. And I personally think the corner of LaSalle and Steveston would be the place to do it. It'd be much quieter. You could put the 2-story building towards, the front, and maybe the amenity area towards the quieter side of the complex. Thoughts?
Well, I don't think we need a resolution. I think staff has heard the concerns to generally work with the applicant on the amenity areas and see what options there are and how the situation could be improved. I think that's all we need.
Okay, as long as that works. And then one last thing is that what this group has done to make it fair for the tenants who are going to have to leave should be a template for every developer in Richmond, because they've gone to extreme measures to try to be considerate of how difficult it is to move when you're a tenant. So as you go forward with other developments, Mr. Craig, I'd like you to show other developers this letter and say, hey, you know, if they can do it, why can't you?
All right, with that, I'm going to call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Councillor McNulty, the next one is number 13.
Yeah, the next one is an application by Harish Singh Gill for rezoning of 3300 Granville Avenue for single detached RS1E to a RS2B zone. Recommended addition is to be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move.
So that's moved and seconded. Do you want to comment?
You know, this one, Your Worship, is just a simple rezoning, taking a lot, dividing it in two, which is good vehicle access from Granville Avenue. And both homes are sufficient size. Staff haven't received any comments from the public or anything against them. And it does comply specifically with the land use along Granville Avenue there, Your Worship, and the policies which are in the OCP. So this is a simple, if you wish, rezoning. And as a result, there are contributions in terms of the affordable housing strategy. They meet the requirements of that. And there is some tree retention and replacement on it. So seeing no reason for this not to go forward.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship. I took this one off the consent agenda as well. I visited this site. It's at basically the dead end of Granville on the west side of Richmond, just a stone's throw from Quilchena. My concern with this one is maybe, as was stated, it's a little bit too simple. So the developers wants to make a symmetrical mirror image of one lot to the other without making any creative adjustments to allow for trees to be retained. If they can only fit 10 trees with the two houses in place of one, if they can only fit 10, then they should only be removing the amount of trees that make them be able to accommodate. So for example, they have 9 trees they're removing. They have to replace with 18. They only have room for 10, so they give us cash in lieu for 8. Sure, the city will use the cash and we'll buy some trees and plant some trees somewhere, but they're not going to be significant trees. They're not going to be large trees with roots that go deep. They'll be against a street. They'll get hit by a car. They'll have other issues with them. So if you want, look at the map. It's on page 237. And with a little bit of adjustment on the edge of the property line, at the corners of the houses, they could have easily saved these 2 trees, and then you know what? They'd only have to plant 10 trees on site. Like, I don't know why we can't get people to follow that simple guidance as opposed to the cash in lieu option. So, that's all.
All right, I'm going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Number 14, Councillor
Thank you, Worship.
McNulty.
The last item we have from the Planning Committee here is the application by Matthew Cheng for the rezoning of 7300 St. Albans from a single detached RS1E zone to a high-density townhouse zone. And I would introduce it and give it move to give first reading.
All right, so it's moved and seconded.
Again, Your Worship, straightforward, actually, zoning on this particular one. And again, it's in the St. Albans area, and it follows all the statutes, and it follows all the STEP code, the amenity space, accessibility. They're doing a fair bit in terms of site servicing and frontage improvements, some things will be straightened out at the DP stage. So with that, Your Worship, present that forward in terms of the amenity space, contributing $8,200, and they're doing contributions to affordable housing strategy of about $120,000 prior to final adoption of the rezoning. So on it, so as I said, I think it is one of the better developments that's coming forward.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll speak to one more of these. So I have a couple other points I want to make on this one, but I'll start with the trees. So they are going to be removing 2. They are illegally had one cut down by a tenant, and so they're having to replace with 8. But there's only room for 5 apparently. So again, we're getting cash in lieu for the others. So that's one issue. The second one I actually have 2 questions to staff on this one. I've spoken to staff about this. I was at the planning meeting, and I did visit it today. It's directly beside the St. Albans Anglican Church, in case you're wondering. So the first question is, I identified there was an error in our package on our page 257, where it does show a tree that is number 548. The symbol on it shows that it's to be cut down, but I had it confirmed by staff, it's actually meant to be protected. So my question to staff is, at public hearing, will we have a document that shows the correct image? Because if this property owner already has illegally cut down a tree, I could potentially see them saying, well, hey, it says we could cut it down, it's marked as such, so can we get an accurate one of these at public hearing?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf, the tree removal that did occur without authorization was prior to the application being received. The plan that you're pointing to on, I believe it was CNCL 257, that is a preliminary landscape plan. It does show the required tree fencing location for preservation of that tree. It's also combined with the outdoor common amenity area. What I would refer you to is page CNCL 263, which is attachment 5, and that is the proposed tree management plan. That plan clearly indicates that the tree will be retained. So at this point in time, I would not recommend that plan, the preliminary landscape plan, be updated, as we are relying on the tree management plan on page CNCL 263.
Okay, great. Then as long as you're confident that is the document that might have to get held up in court one day. The final question or question I have for you is what is it here? The suite that they're going to build. So it's going to be 4 townhouses and a suite. Is the suite a complete optional thing, or could we ask for contribution to Affordable Housing Reserve instead of that suite?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf, they are actually already providing all contributions to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund, in addition to voluntarily providing the secondary suite on site. So they are both providing the almost $120,000 contribution towards the affordable housing, as well as a secondary suite. Okay, then my follow-up question then, through Your Worship, is how did we come to this? How did we get this extra suite added in? Because there's an exchange, or could we be getting a whole lot more suites when buildings like this go up? Through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf, this was proposed by the applicant.
Okay. I'll just comment then a little bit further. It is a 270 square foot suite, so that's the average parking stall in Richmond, I think, is about that square footage. The fact that it is going to be their suite, it's private property, the city will have no control if it's rented out or not. We'll have no way to know or set the rental rate. So I just wanted to state that. Yeah, I think I've said everything else I need to say. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. I have a couple questions too, sorry. I'll get too comfortable. Okay, this looks like an apartment building. It just is a big square box. I don't think we need any more luxury townhouses in the city center. And this is the city center. There are apartments very close to this. Is there any way, if we were to relax some of the parking, if we could build, instead of 4 townhouses, we could potentially build either smaller units to buy or rent apartments, or have 4 suites instead of just 1?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the proposal that is put before council today is consistent with all of City Council's policies for this area, which does designate the site for medium to high density townhouses. The requirement for an additional form or a change in that form and density would be contrary to the area plan for this site. So what is put before council today for first reading is consistent with all of council's policies.
And that's why we need to change the policies. You know, this is city center. I mean, I know it's just ever so slightly out. It's so close to Granville Avenue and so close to number 3 Road, so close to buses, Sky Trains. You know, I think we could do better on this one, because I think that there's a good chance down the road that we could see St. Albans be redeveloped. We've heard of rumors of that down the road as well. So I'm not satisfied that this is our best use of this land. And I wanted to hopefully see if somebody else came out from the public, but I think I'm going to have to vote against this after having a good, sober second look at it. I just think we could utilize the space way better than what we're doing, so I'm not going to support it.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one more question on that. So this whole area is zoned this multifamily low rise, which is also 3-story apartments, not just townhouses.
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, there is a mix of housing in the area. Given the lot size, it does lend itself more to a 3-story townhouse format that is very then consistent with what you see in the surrounding neighborhood. So predominantly what we had anticipated for this site be this 3-story townhouse concept.
Okay. It looked like across the road there was a 3 or even a 4-story apartment building.
On the east side of St. Albans?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yes, and then I do see, you know, just because right across Bennett Road is multifamily high-rise, and we're updating our OCP, and it's so close to the city center, it just doesn't make sense to be doing townhouses right in this area. So I'm also not a fan of doing that. Thanks.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, I'm going to take this opportunity to make a comment about the architectural design, whether we're building townhouses, condos, or whatever. And I think most of the staff in planning have heard me say that we've got to start being creative in the architectural design. So I agree with Councillor Day, is when we build these box buildings, they look, in my opinion, god-awful. And I think we've got to be creative, and I think we've got to start to look at the architectural design so it has some character in that particular location that we're building. Just a comment, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to call the question on this matter. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried with Councillors Wolf, Day, and Galanders opposed. All right, that takes us to the other item, which was taken off the consent agenda right from the outset of the consolidated fees bylaw. The recommendation is that the consolidated fees bylaw 8636 amendment bylaw 10486 be introduced and given first, second, third reading, and I would so move. I think the report stands for itself. I have yet to hear what the opposition is about. So let's hear it. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was at the Finance Committee meeting and did speak to the opposition then. That's why it's off the consent agenda already. There were 4 points that I made then, and I'll just briefly list them off for you again. So there was basically what this is doing is that we're increasing the fee for almost everything except for a handful of things. One of those that's not being raised or is being raised by 2 cents instead of 25 cents is soil deposit and removal fee. Now, yes, that would cost a lot to do land raising or land clearing, but that does a number of damage. It puts risk on our roads. Collisions with trucks and overpasses come to mind, or spillage of trucks tipping over. all sorts of other issues. The wear and tear on our roads, to not be able to accommodate the ongoing impacts. I don't know. I don't think that's a wise use of this amendment. This next one was, I was going to mention, was the trees. Security deposit is on page 349. I know this is not one of the things that we're adjusting, but it is in this item. I think there should be higher security deposits, especially for significant trees, because we've seen a lot of developments. There's one on Bridgeport right now that's going up. They protected it with a nice fence, and all the trees in the fence died. Same happened on, when they built Walmart on Garden City there. All the trees that were in the fences died. The next one I wanted to highlight is the waste and recycling from demolition. I think we should be adjusting that. I think we could get more complex with that one. Instead of having whatever the waste is or recycling stuff is, one fee, I think there should be multiple fee levels for unsorted stuff, sorted stuff. We received the memo from staff outlining some of the reasons why it would maybe not be suitable to adjust that, but I think we could add to it and make it more complex if we want to get people to change behaviors. This is a tool for that. And finally, the last one was on the short-term boarding and lodging. Our fee is $158 business license fee, and I think that could be adjusted. And I think we could have added that amendment in here if there was an appetite on committee, council.
All right, we're going to call the question then on the motion. Councillor Glanders.
Thank you. CNCL 306, the dangerous dog, I brought it up at committee. The number, the second time offense, the neutered dog and the non-neutered dog and the dangerous dog all doubled, but then the third time, the neutered male and the non-neutered male doubled again, but the dangerous dog didn't. And I was just wondering if that was a typo. I brought it up at committee.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, that is not a typo. It is a deliberate choice for two reasons. The first of which being that in a regional scan to appears it already is above the average for a like-to-like dog in that situation. Secondly, it is exceedingly rare that we wind up with a third impoundment of a dangerous dog. Usually by the second impoundment, there's a surrender or an application for destruction.
Right. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify.
All right. Now I am going to call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to public announcements. Just, if you can just hold on a sec. Where did I put it? Okay. The first item is very important. It's a statement on the situation in Israel. This past weekend saw a large and coordinated terrorist attack on the people of Israel. The images of that attack and its impact on innocent civilians are horrifying and disturbing. The city of Richmond condemns the terrorist attacks in the strongest possible terms and supports Israel's right to defend itself and protect its citizens in keeping with international law. We will show our support for Israel by lighting the Together statue at the Minneru Center for Active Living in blue and white. Terrorism cannot be justified and must never be tolerated, so our hearts go out to the people of Israel and our Jewish community, and we stand together in calling for a swift end to this terrible and unnecessary violence. Then we move also to global matters at today's World Mental Health Day. It's an opportunity to raise awareness of mental health issues and discuss its impacts on those living with a mental illness, as well as their family, their friends, and their colleagues. We encourage everyone to learn more about what mental illness looks like, to reach out when in need, and to know how to support others experiencing a mental illness. So for information on local services and supports, go to cmha.bc.ca. Then we have the city grants and the deadline for applications. The deadline for applications for 2024 city grants program is Wednesday, October 18th at 5 o'clock. City grants support local community groups in promoting partnerships, community, and capacity to deliver programs. Grant applications are available for programs in arts and culture, childcare, health and safety, parks and recreation, and environmental enhancement. Application forms and details are available on the city website. Then it's World Migratory Bird Day. Richmond's location, natural environment, and habitat is a sanctuary and haven for migratory birds. The public is invited to learn more and celebrate World Migratory Bird Day at Terra Nova Park on Saturday, October 21st. That's Saturday, October 21st at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Staff from the Richmond Nature Park will be at the Terra Nova Playground with fun activities and birdwatching lessons for all ages. The event is free and details are on the city website. And finally, we have a diversity symposium. Registration is now open for the 2023 City of Richmond Diversity Symposium, which takes place from October 23rd to the 27th. The symposium is a free week-long conference for professionals, volunteers, and community members interested in learning, sharing, and advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in their communities. So if you want details of that, go to our city website, richmond.ca/diversity. With that, we have bylaws for second and third reading.
So move.
It's moved and seconded. Discussion, all those in favor, any opposed, that is carried. And bylaws for adoption, you recall that we've got the one extra one that has been added.
So move.
So that's moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? We can. Okay, I'll separate them out. First of all, I'll call the question on the first one, the zoning bylaw 8500, amendment bylaw 10271. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is carried with Councilors Wolf and Day opposed. Then we have, I'll call the question on the bylaw 8500 amendment bylaw 10415. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is carried with Councilors Wolf, Day, and Galanders opposed. And finally, on the revised bylaw, the rezoning bylaw 10148. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, Development Permit Panel.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are two recommendations for Council's consideration. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on September 27, 2023, and the Chair's report for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on October 27, 2021 be received for information. And Recommendation 2, that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the issuance of development permit for the property located at 9340 General Curry Road be endorsed and the permit so issued.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone want to move adjournment? Okay, we're now adjourned. Thank you.